The United Nations Security Council has met to debate the deteriorating situation in Ukraine and reiterate its demands for Russia to rein in armed separatists who continue to fuel unrest in key cities in the country's eastern regions.
Groups of militia and armed civilians are increasing in number and springing up in more cities across the region, seizing buildings, mounting roadblocks, and shutting whole towns and communities off from the rest of the country. There are increasing reports of torture, kidnappings, and violent clashes.
After Feltman spoke, ambassadors from other council nations spoke out, including the UK's, who claimed Russia's justifications were based on a new level of distorted international law.
This is deeply irresponsible rhetoric intended to threaten and intimidate the Ukrainian government and provide a bogus pretext for further illegal breaches of Ukrainian sovereignty and territorial integrity.
Ukraine's ambassador voiced concerns that the current scenario in eastern Ukraine might be similar to the one implemented by Russia in Abkhazia.
Let me remind you that Ukraine has never threatened Russia and never will. Ukrainians want to live in peace and want to be left alone. The highest level of cynicism is a Russian reference to the right for self-defense in a situation where it is Russia who is acting as aggressor, having occupied Crimea, and it is brutally interfering in the internal affairs of Ukraine, destabilizing and trying to create an explosive situation in the eastern regions of Ukraine.
US Ambassador Samantha Power said Russia had kept stirring trouble, undermining the Kiev government and releasing statements which distort the facts, even since the international agreements over the crisis in Ukraine were signed in Geneva on April the 17th.
Instead, Russian officials have refused to publicly call on the separatists to give up their weapons and relinquish their illegal control of Ukrainian government buildings. In fact, Russia continues to fund, to coordinate, and to fuel the heavily armed separatist movement. In addition, just outside of Ukraine's border, Russia has continued to engage in threatening troop movements that are designed not to calm tensions, but to embolden the separatists and to intimidate the government.
In March, the UN's General Assembly declared the referendum on Crimea's succession from Ukraine as invalid by 100 votes to 11. Countries which voted against the resolution included North Korea, Syria and Zimbabwe.